Hey there guys. Today we are going to look at Dietpi. So basically a friend of mine dropped off a couple of Raspberry Pis. I don't know if you watched my RetroPie install video, but in that video I mentioned a friend of mine dropped off a couple of Raspberry Pis for me to set up, and they were basically brand new. So in order to do a little bit of burn-in testing to make sure they're in good shape, installing some different things on them and checking them out, and it gives me a good opportunity to record some of these installs and configurations, things I'm not 100% familiar with. So I'm learning some of these as I'm showing them to you, which honestly is not a bad thing. But one of the things I've been meaning to try out is Dietpi. So basically Dietpi is a minimalist, as you can see, installation of Debian Jessie. Takes up about 400 meg worth of space. And it's basically just a framework, kind of like Noobs, to get the install done and set up. And then it gives you an optimized, simple interface for installing software. So what software can Dietpi install? It also looks like it has a backup inside of it and its own update system, and it'll let you do system logging, which is pretty important in some cases, but there's a lot of automation behind it as well. But back to the original point, what software can you install through the Dietpi menu? So basically you install Dietpi, you go into a menu interface and you pick what software you want this particular single board computer to do. And here's the list of current software as of February 3rd of 2018. And most of these are all configured or require minimal configuration after the installation. So basically the top ones are a desktop. So this is basically a simplified or a specialized desktop that you can run. So you got Mate, LXDE, XFCE, NewStep, and a Chromium web browser. I'm guessing that just boots into a web browser. So that'd be a really nice kiosk setup. You could set up remote access. So you got your VNCs, you got your XRDPs, your, well, VNC again, all set up here. And then you have media systems. Some of these media systems are really appealing to me because in trying some of them out, some of the systems are a little difficult to configure if you're building them from scratch. In particular, actually some of them are down here, but Kode's not too hard. There's actually a couple implementations of Kode that are easy to install, and I'll be doing one of those actually later this week, because everybody's got to do a Kode install. But some of the audio sharing, like Kava and Subsonic, and what else am I seeing in here? Apache, Plex can be a little bit tricky to set up from the command line if you're building it from scratch. So you got two different versions of Plex, it looks like. One to monitor it and track it, and one to run it. And I guess these would run in conjunction with each other. There's a voice over IP server, Icecast, and then you get down to your more nefarious tools like BitTorrent tools like Transmission and RTorrent and things like that. But SicRage and Couch Potato and even Sonar and Radar can be a little bit daunting to set up the first time. It's my understanding that this tool comes with a basic baseline configuration to get you up and running a lot quicker, and that could be a great benefit. I don't run any of these applications myself because I just haven't had the time to put into the configuration for them, to look into it and set it up. So maybe we might take some time and install some of these, because I'm wondering if it has an uninstaller as well. We'll have to check that out once we get into the program. And if we can install them and uninstall them, we can try these out and see how they work. But like I said, SicRage, Sonar, Radar, Couch Potato, I know those have a fairly high learning curve to set up if you build them from scratch. Even the HTPC manager can be a little bit difficult. But let's see how much the program actually configures for us, and then how much we have to configure ourselves. And then there's emulation and gaming. So you can get a Steam client, you can get AmiBerry, MineOS, Openterian. The Dietpi cam, I'm actually kind of interested in that, in the Motion Eye. Having a pre-configured, basically, surveillance camera is pretty cool. Now, it also has a configuration for own cloud and a bunch of personal cloud storage. These are the things that interest me because right now I have my own cloud set up so that I can access some of my data anywhere I go. And the reason I do that is because there's Google Drive, there's Dropbox, there's other things like that, but I can easily exceed the amount of data that one of those services can store on a free or a minimal payment budget. Now, if I want to store 2 terabytes of data, I don't want to have to pay to do it because it's probably some video that I'm working on for the channel or something that I'm cleaning up for somebody else or a song that I'm working on or any number of other things or the entire database of documents for any of my cars, things that I like to keep handy anywhere I am. And these would definitely be a good way to do it. The OwnCloud, the Nextcloud, there is a backup server, UR Backup, and I'm wondering how effective that would be, and I wonder what systems it covers. Have not had a chance to look into that one. Something we might want to look at, because if we can set up a Raspberry Pi with an external drive, or a single board computer. I should go back to that. Single board computer. Don't specifically have to install these on a Raspberry Pi, but we are installing it on a Raspberry Pi. But if I could set up a backup server to back up my Windows machines, well, that's an alternative to actually using Windows Backup, which is my understanding is not working quite well anymore in some of the newer updates, if it's even present at all. But there are some backup servers. There's a GitHub style server, it looks like, which is kind of handy for the development side of things. You got your forums. That'd be kind of cool. Set up a forum and pipe it to your Raspberry Pi, because forums don't take up that much processing power. They take up more network power. Depending on what single board computer you set these up on, could definitely run basically a web server on them with the tools that you have here, because this does pretty much everything: a search engine, a calendar server, web server, image gallery, and WordPress, and a forum, which is a pretty common forum. PHPBB3 is fairly common. You can also set it up as a Wi-Fi hotspot or a Tor hotspot. So those are 2 interesting things you can do with it. Not terribly difficult to set up, but it's nice to see that they come already configured. Looks like you have some home automation stuff. I wonder if any of these are in the X99 category, which is kind of cool. You also have the Google AIY, the OK Google voice kit. You have some different things with GPIO interface libraries that you can work with, which is pretty cool. What else we got in here? Got some remote access stuff. I see where some of these would be more important, tied into being able to access things on your network or being able to access your device outside of your network. So we got some stats and system management, security stuff. So you can get brute force attack prevention and app distribution. And here's your web server types, your LAMP, your LASP, your LAP, your LAMP, all the different things you can possibly put together. PHP My Admin, so you can run MySQL and set up things in there and get in there and administrate your database. So you got Tomcat by itself if you don't need MySQL and PHP. You can even set up Pi-hole, which isn't that hard, but having it in one package that you can just go click, click, and load it, honestly, awesome. Especially depending on how the configuration comes through. And that's something I've actually been interested in setting up, just for the idea of setting it up. I don't block ads and when I go to different sites. I want to try this, and maybe I'll make a video on it to see what you can whitelist and what you can block, because I'm one of those people who, if I'm watching, well, it really doesn't matter for me because I have YouTube Red, but if I get on YouTube and there are people who are counting on that ad revenue from people watching their videos, I play the ads. But since I have YouTube Red, I don't have to play ads anymore. It really doesn't matter. But different things like that, there are sites that I would like to whitelist and see ads for. There are sites I would not like to whitelist and see ads for. But file servers, so you can set up Samba and an FTP server, so that's awesome, and that would help you with your web server. You can set up an OpenVPN, which is really nice because it would, taking it to the point of today's security concerns and today's encryption concerns, being able to set up a VPN server to be able to do point-to-point connections through a VPN and secure it is just awesome. You have a TCP HTTP load balancer and a proxy server, so you can set up a proxy server with load balancing. You can, what you got, cloud printing, and there is also one for Octoprint. So I know we're going to set this one up because I actually set up Octoprint from scratch in another video. I'm going to do it in here as well on another video other than this one, because this is just going to be the installation and checking out the menu. And then we're going to go through and we're going to install some of these, and we're going to tag them and do them independently so they're isolated, so that if you're only interested in that thing, you can do it. But it would be a good starting point to realize that I've installed Octoprint from the image from Octopi. Now being able to install Octoprint through Dietpi to compare the two videos together and see the difference in the steps and the number of configuration options that we had to go through in order to get it done. So we have some file servers that we can set up, Samba again, and SSH servers that we can set up, so that's pretty cool. OpenSSH would be nice to have, and the logging they discussed, and some web servers. And the pre-installed applications that it comes with are the things that are on the front page, which are some very useful utilities, as well as some kind of kitschy utilities like Dietpi Morse code. I don't really know the last time I needed to convert a text file to Morse code, but if you ever do, it's right here. So it installs by default. And as you go through, each one of these is hot linked to a description down below. So I'll put the link for this up in the description of the video, but when you go to the page, you'll be able to click on this Dietpi software link, and it will take you to this page, and you can run through and say you want to check out, well, let's select Octoprint because that's one we're interested in. So I click on Octoprint, and it takes me down to the Octoprint page, and it says Octoprint provides a web interface for controlling consumer 3D printers, which is exactly what I use it for. Now it also gives the web interface access. It tells you how to restart it, restart Octoprint, and shut down the system. And it also tells you where it checks it out. So it gives you rudimentary information. The one thing I do not see in here, which actually could be to preserve anonymity, is it does not give you the root system passwords for some of these that I'm seeing. Maybe some of them do, but I don't see where they do. So I'm going to assume that it's using the default system passwords, or it is using the default Dietpi password, which I believe I found somewhere over here where it said the default is root and the password is Dietpi. Now, going further down the page are download options. Now these are all these single board computers that Dietpi works for. So you can pick your closest match. So let's say you have one of the Asus Tinker boards, which is a very, very nice board. But it has a higher price tag than the Raspberry Pi, and I prefer the Raspberry Pi because it's one I'm more familiar with. So I don't have an Asus Tinker board, but if you did, you could download the Dietpi image for the Asus Tinker board and install it. They also have it for the Banana Pi boards, the Nano Pi boards, the Odroids, the Orange Pis, the Pines. They also have it for PC. You can have it as a VMware module, a VirtualBox module, a native PC under UEFI, or a BIOS CSM boot. And then they have an other, which has the Rose Apple Pi and the BeagleBone Black. So those are all fine and dandy. But the Raspberry Pi image comes all models 1. And if you click on this, it gives you a summary of what you're looking at, compares the CPU performance rating, file system performance rating, network performance, and heat efficiency. And then it tells you what the CPU uses, and in the Raspberry Pi it's various, and in the RAM it's various, because there are different configurations, but they only have one stock image for the Raspberry Pi. For the pros, it has a large community, highly affordable and accessible. For the cons, it does have slower CPU speed, it does have network performance problems, and it does have heat. And it's not necessarily a network performance problem, it's the fact that you can only get 100 meg Ethernet out of a Raspberry Pi, or you can get Wi-Fi on the Raspberry Pi 3 and Bluetooth. So this would be kind of the origin point for the single board computers. Now, if we look at the ASUS Tinkerboard, it tells us a little bit different story. So instead of having like a 1 gigahertz quad processor and 1.5 gig RAM, I'm forgetting how much RAM the Pi 3B has, you get a Rockchip RK3288 1.8 gigahertz quad core with a 2 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. And you go into the pros, you got the onboard Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, build quality. You go into the cons, you got cost, has no USB 3.0, and it has a 1080p resolution, which are all valid cons, but it does have better performance. So if you do have one of these, you may want to check this out. It may work great for you to get started. But we downloaded the Raspberry Pi image, and we're going to install it. So you can buy the boards here. Well, I don't know if you're buying them here. You're buying them from allo.com, which isn't a bad place. But they've got the prices listed for them here. And there are certain modules and add-ins you can buy. Like the DACs. I actually was buying some of these for the Raspberry Pi car stereo I've been working on, so I've been working in some of those. And the camera modules and things like that. They're all really, really good, cool things. But anyway, I've already downloaded the image. So we're going to turn to our buddy Etcher. And here is where we select the image. So it is called Dietpi v6.0 RPI ARM v6 stretch. And the entire image is less than 1 gig. It's 681 meg. And then we're going to select the drive. And I'm not going to select the drive because I've actually already done this image, but I would select the drive that it's going to, which would be the micro SD card I'm burning it to. And then I'm going to flash it. Now, as I always say, these are the only two options I typically keep checked on Etcher, mostly because since I write a lot of partitions that are not readable by any operating system or the operating system that's writing them, I don't want it validating them because sometimes it gets confused and fails out the disk. So auto eject on success. So once it gets to 100%, it auto ejects the drive, which is what I want, because if it doesn't, Windows is going to give me an error message telling me I have to format the drive in order to use it. And I like to allow it to report anonymously usage and statistics of things that I've written. So I cook the flash button once you've got your drive selected, and it takes probably less than a minute to burn the image to SD card. Now that covers the installation and the download and a basic summary of the product. Now I've already downloaded the image, so I'm going to pause the video here for a second. I'm going to switch over to the Raspberry Pi, I'm going to boot it up, and then we're going to explore Dietpi as it boots. So bear with me, I'll be right back, and we'll get started with the actual meat of the project, getting Dietpi up and running. Okay, so here we are booting up. Now, for the purpose of this video, I have attached a USB mouse and a USB keyboard to the Raspberry Pi. We are connected via Ethernet. Okay. We're connected via Ethernet because I don't want to go through the Wi-Fi configuration. So basically, we're just connected directly to my router so that it can get to where it needs to go and download any patches and whatnot and packages with as little trouble as possible. And as you can see, it looks like it is launching and trying to sync time and trying to do typical Linux boot up things. Now, bear with me, I got a lot of keyboards here. Okay, so we're going to type in exactly as it says. Username root. Password is Dietpi. And now we have time sync. Let me grab that mouse. Let me get this mouse out of the way. I have such limited desk space anymore. Okay, so we are booting and we are updating and we are pulling down everything we need to get the basic system working. So once we've got the basic framework down, it goes out and it looks like it picks up some additional packages to get those installed, verifies that the things that it has on there are what they are supposed to be, and then gets right on rolling with basic configuration to set itself up. Okay, and now we have finished the update. So once we hit enter, the system is going to reboot, and then we should be able to log in and just continue on. And here's the reboot. And I'm recording this through my Razer device, so that's good. It should be able to handle text with no problem. The Ripsaw is an interesting little device, so it works fairly well for just about everything I've used it for, and it's very handy to be able to put it through the booting sequences and such. Okay, so we're back at the login, and that was actually pretty quick. So let's type in root Dietpi. Bam, here we go. All right, so the program is free software. We can redistribute it, modify it into the terms of the public license, blah, 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 warranty, distributed, that it would hope that it'll be useful with no warranty implied, or any fitness warranty. You know how these read. I don't need to read it. And now we're doing a time sync. And I have a feeling once we get in and we can set the time sync NTPD protocol that we want to go with and the place we want to sync time with, it'll actually go quicker because it looks like it's doing a round robin and we may not be reaching the sync pool that we want to reach. Okay, so here is the basic menu that it comes up with. So we've got a help, which goes to the online guides. We've got configuration, which sets some of the configuration tools on the device. Optimization, what is this? Optimized software for installation. Additional Linux software for installation. So got our logging system running. We're not installing a file server. I don't really need SSH, but I would say if you're installing this for practical use, you would want to do so. We have the light TPD for web server interface, which is fine because I'm not going to be serving any web pages, so we're pretty good. The only thing we'd probably be serving is pages that are for configuration. Can uninstall software here, and we can install software here. But let's click on the Dietpi configuration first, and the first thing we probably want to do is display audio performance. Okay, we don't want to do any overclocking. There's no need for that. Do we have mouse? I do not have mouse control yet. Okay, audio performance advanced. I'm looking to make sure that none of these look out of line from the default installation. Now we're not running a swap file, which appears to be running just fine. Don't need to update the firmware. Bluetooth is disabled. Since this is a Raspberry Pi 3, if we were operating this in a function, we would probably enable it. USB boot support. Okay, that all looks good enough for our purposes. But if you were putting it in for something that's purpose specific, you would probably know those options that you wanted to change right off the bat. Okay, so we could do a benchmark or we could do a stress test. Now, I'm going to do the stress test later because one of the reasons I'm installing these applications on these Raspberry Pis that my friend dropped off is so that I can stress test them, because I had to assemble them and I want to make sure the heat sinks are working properly, because Raspberry Pis do tend to generate a lot of heat. So I want to do a burn-in before I do anything serious with them. So this is just basically testing and installing things, and I thank my friend for allowing me the use of their Raspberry Pis for this. Slick software optimized. Okay, so here's where we can go through that list, which I'm sure will update more currently than the list on the server. And we want to install Octopi. Can we page down? Yeah, we can page down. Page down is a good thing. So let's just pick Octopi because I know it's going to be a quick install. It's not a big program. It's under printing. And that will give it something to install. Kind of wish you could search here, because there's starting to get to be a lot of programs. So we'll select that, go to OK. Software additional. Automatically install additional Linux software on the next screen when required. So this picks the additional software that we may want to install. One of the things I usually install in a Linux system is Midnight Commander, because it's familiar to me. I usually put ALSA on there for the sound system. It's all a matter of preference, but I don't think there's anything in here we expressly need, since we're not running a desktop. Just give us an option to pick. Yes, we can pick OpenSSH or DropBear. I'm going to pick OpenSSH because I know it. File server, we have options of, there we go, we're going to pick Samba. I don't think it matters about the RAM log because I don't care. But we've got, I'm going to switch that to Apache because I like Apache. We're just going to see how the install runs in a typical Linux user's preference. I'm going to leave that there because we don't care about the user location, because this is a temporary installation and we're just going to go. So select installed software for removal, and the only things we have available for removal are the RAM log and the SSH server, and neither of those we really need to uninstall, but now we tell it to install and click OK. And now it is installing our software as we requested it to do. And like I said, I'm not going to do the full install on this and do the testing. I'm just showing what it does when you select a software package to install. Later, I will actually go back through, reinstall it, and pick up probably from this point and show the differences between Octoprint doing the image and Octoprint doing the installation. But I know a lot of people are not interested in that, so I will do it in a separate video where we can compare the two together and see which one works better or which one works worse, and even if there is no better or worse, the differences between the two. But it is nice that they put in a at least a minimally configured package of what you're looking for. And if there's a package you would like me to install and show what these configuration looks like, I'd be happy to do that, because now is a great time for me to uninstall and install packages and see how cleanly they uninstall, and see how, if I want to repurpose my Raspberry Pi, I can do that simply by uninstalling the package and reinstalling it. So anything in that list, if you want to see Couch Potato or Sonar or Plex or any of those, definitely drop me a comment down below so I can go through and uninstall it and then reinstall it to see how well it works, repurposing my Octoprint Raspberry Pi to a Sonar or a Couch Potato or any other type of Raspberry Pi, because I am kind of curious about that. And I'll kind of make a follow-up if anybody comes up with any suggestions of any applications they want to see installed, to show perhaps where it goes from there, where repurposing this Raspberry Pi would take us and how well that works. And then, of course, we can do the actual installation of the program and the configuration in a separate video. But I'd like to see some ideas. What do you guys want to see? Now, this is all working pretty quick. And I'm not seeing anything out of line, so that's a good sign. When you see a lot of red during a Linux installation, it's very unsettling, even though sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean you're having a major problem, but at least it's something you have to investigate. Okay, we got packages in installing, uninstalling. Now this is working on a Raspberry Pi 3 with a Class 10 micro SSD card. And the card is 32 gig, just so you were aware. It's just one I had laying around, so it's a SanDisk 32 gig Ultra, which I think is the Class 10. I don't know. I got a bunch of them sitting here on my desk that I got to go through. But for the purposes of this video, let's assume it's Class 10, and let's assume it is the SanDisk Ultra 32 gig. I know it's 32 gig because all 8 of these are 32 gig. Okay, and this is installing, looks like, our web server information with Python and okay. Yeah. Once we get done with this, I wonder if you can choose the version of Python you put with your... Probably if there's a development tool package, you could do that. So now we're installing Samba. I didn't catch what it was installing before. We probably have no mouse because we have no desktop. But usually the mouse works in the text menus as well. Okay, and it's even smart enough to know that Samba's not running on an AD controller, so it's it's masking the AD/DC service. Okay, and now we're installing Octoprint. That looks about right. And now I'm curious if it's actually going to reboot into Dietpi, or if it's going to reboot into Debian, or if it's going to reboot into Octoprint. I have some more dependencies it's installing. I know I have a tendency to ramble, but I really want to show the real-time process of the installation on these. So, forgive me if this video is going to be a little longer, but I want you to understand what you're getting into if you check out this product. And the only way I can do that is to actually let it run and not time-lapse it. Because sometimes it is important to realize how slow or fast or efficient or inefficient an installer is. And if I 4x this, you're not going to get a good sense of that. So we're just going to watch it and comment on anything that looks unusual. I got a fatal error on something. Nothing serious. Function declaration. It should get past that. Okay. So far, so good. Looks like it has pretty good install scripts, so that works out pretty well. And we didn't install much, so it's not going to go completely overboard. I can imagine you could seriously overload one of these single board computers by checking every box in the dang thing and just killing it. Okay. Looks like we're normalizing the time and date. Should move on from here. There we go. Looks like a lot of Python. Okay, finish the dependencies for Octoprint 1.3.6. Now real quick while this is running, I'm going to see what the most current version of Octoprint is. As we stand, the most current version is 1.3.6. As of February 3rd, so it is actually installing the current version of Octoprint, which is awesome. It actually picked it up because the release candidate for this came out, well, this was released about a month ago, well, 2 months ago, December 12th. So it is current, though. All right, let's log in, see what happens. Okay, now we can choose to run the launcher, the config, software optimization, research monitor, CPU information statistics. So let's try CPU. Okay, so we are currently running an RMV 7.1 at 55 degrees Celsius, 131 degrees Fahrenheit. It is running warm but safe, which is understandable because I actually have limited airflow where I'm holding it. We are at 50% CPU usage, and our current frequency is 1.2 gigahertz. Okay, let's try the resource monitor. All right, that looks good. That's what we're currently running. Great. There's an Octoprint server right there. So we'll quit. And it looks like all of our stuff is running. So that is the basics of Octoprint. Now let's take a look at our directory. See if we can get anywhere. It looks like a standard Linux distribution. And we have an FTP client, an NFS client, a Samba folder loaded, and we have our user data there. So that's normal. And nothing in our home folder, so that's normal. All right. I think that about covers it. So like I said, this is a basic how to install Dietpi on a Raspberry Pi video, and we installed an application. So we put our application on there, and everything installed correctly. The application is running. I'm not going to go through the specific application we installed because it's a very niche application that not a lot of people would probably be interested in, but some people might. Now, the application I did install is one that I had installed previously by doing the image from the actual website itself, and that went fairly smooth. Now, did it go as smooth as this one? Well, actually, it was just about as smooth. It took just about as long to do the install and the initial configuration of Octopi as it did to install Octoprint through here. Now, I do want to take some time to go in and actually browse it through the web and see the differences between the two and see which one requires additional configuration steps. So that will be in another video because Octoprint is very specific, and I know a lot of people would get very bored going through the configuration settings in Octoprint again. So I will do that in another video for the people who are curious about that program in particular. And again, if there is something you would like to see me install that you want to run, I would be happy to do so because I'm looking for things to uninstall Octoprint from and install that and see how that works. And then we can explore the uninstall process and the reconfiguration of the device. So drop some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of Dietpi. If you've got a single board computer, have you tried it? Is it something you are interested in? Is there something you want to do that it doesn't have currently? I'm not affiliated with this project. I just found out about this, and honestly, I was fascinated by the fact that through a centralized menu interface, I can load applications that I load over and over and over again for myself or other people, and being able to put this in a perspective of this makes my life easier because the configuration is already, the framework of the configuration is already there, so I don't have to go through the basic steps. Now, one of the things I am curious about is whether you can actually alter the configuration files from the image at any point to, say, Kodi was in that list. Say you have a special Kodi interface change that you make on every Kodi box you set up. Could you modify the configuration file that loads Kodi to set your configuration file in place? Although I do have to say that since most programs actually maintain a separate configuration file, the easiest thing to do would be to copy those configuration files off, SSH into the box, and replace them with the configuration files that you want, because then you'll want to change the settings particular for that box before you drop them on the box and then reboot it and have them take effect. So that might be better, and it probably is more stable. Anyway, this is my introduction to Dietpi. Love to hear what you think about it. Love to hear if you've tried it or you're gonna try it. But that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed it. We're gonna do some more Raspberry Pi videos. We're gonna do some other things. I got some other things that I really want to get done. I want to get back to the 3D printing, but I have a part on order, so I cannot do 3D printing right now, and that's giving me some time to do some other areas that I want to get involved in, and this is one of them. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking it out. I will talk to you guys later, and hopefully these informational videos and these tutorials are getting a little bit better. I've actually trying to learn from my mistakes, and I think this one is a little bit better than the last one, so I keep trying to get a little better every time, but I know there are areas of improvement that I need to work on. So thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.